Hey everybody, Stacey Louise here, intuitive medium, and I promised more stories about what it's like being an intuitive medium, and I wanted to share one that actually just happened the other day. So, for everybody, when we start to open up to our intuition, we are more likely to receive when we can get out of our own way. And so one of the ways that naturally happens for a lot of people is when we're doing other things. So as a medium, I get a lot of messages for people that they feel their loved ones around when they're like doing the dishes. First of all, your hands are in the water. That helps us connect. And also you're kind of doing something that has that logical part of your brain on autopilot. So it kind of allows us to be open to receive. It's like when your mind wanders, your mind is really open and connected. For me, that happens when I'm driving. When I am driving, I get so many messages. I get so many epiphanies. And I actually had an intuitive life coach, and she told me to pay attention when I'm driving. And I remember being terrified when I heard that because I thought it meant I was going to have a car crash. And I didn't realize until like a year later that I was receiving messages when I was driving. So it hasn't happened in a while. Like I'll get epiphanies and messages for myself from spirit. Sometimes I'll even pull over to jot notes on my phone. But it can often happen like this. Now, I am neurodivergent, ADHD. I have conversations in my head. I will, if I'm going to see somebody, I'll kind of try to picture how it's going to go. Like, what are we going to talk about? I don't know if you guys do that, but I do that. And so sometimes when I know I'm going to be seeing somebody and I'm thinking about that evening or that event, their loved ones will come through while I'm thinking about them. And that happened the other day for me. And now this was a friend. So it is hard to read for people you know as a medium because you often know their story, you know their loved ones who are in spirit. And so it's very important to get evidence. So I'm driving along, I'm thinking about my friend. We were going to have a campfire. I pictured him sitting next to me, and I was kind of trying to picture who was going to show up. And it was just him, and I saw his grandmother in spirit standing next to him. Now, I know that this grandmother was a very important person to him in his life. And so I was kind of like, okay, look, I know your story pretty much. So if you have a message for him, then you need to give me evidence that I wouldn't know. And she did. And all this is while I'm driving, like my music's on, And so I started getting these things that she was showing me and just making notes in my mind for later. And then I was like, okay, so what's the message? And so there was this beautiful message for him. And then later that evening when I got to see him, I shared this with him, and he was very open to it, which was really beautiful. He's hung out with me enough to like know my weird and understand it. So hold on one second. Sorry. So the evidence was dead on. It was like really exciting. And so that's just one of the weird ways that being a medium can just hit you in the middle of your daily life. Now, I don't get messages all the time out in the wild like I used to. When I first started realizing I had this gift, I was so excited that I was like walking around just like totally open. And I would get messages all the time for people. I did not always deliver them because I don't feel like we should just force messages on people. So now that I do it, I set the time. I don't get people barging in as much, but there are some connections, especially friends and soul connections, that I know they're open all the time, and so I will get messages. Or sometimes when it's a really important message, I'll get like a random thing. Like often it also comes to me in my daily life in the form of like I'll be talking to someone, or I'll be in a place or at somebody's house, and I will just feel like someone's kind of pacing off to the side, and it literally feels like they're like, hey, do you see me? Like I'm over here. Like they don't barge in, like they respect my boundaries, but they're also making themselves known so that if I want to tap in, they're there and ready. So yeah, it's a weird life. It's beautiful. And I will say this about it. I think it's one of the most beautiful gifts. It is hard sometimes. I've had a lot of loss myself. Often I feel these things on such a deep level because of all the loss that I've experienced in my life. But it's also healing to me every time I bring through messages for people. It's an honor. I feel incredibly honored to be able to give people messages from spirit and to just even for a minute reconnect them with somebody that they love and miss. So yeah, it's weird. So that's one little story time that just happened recently. I have another really weird one that happened recently, so stay tuned for that one. It's shorter.